I am so lonely.
I know that most of these videos from me or other reviewers have started with them saying, oh, the Home 100 is in a very weird state, but the Home 100 is in a very weird state. And I don't think it's because they're too slow or too empty, which they might not even be. It just seems that way. Maybe the problem is the other way around. That so many things happen in the music industry that pretty much there's no competition. Instead of getting many songs that matter at the same time, we get a single one that pretty much hoards all of the discussion to the point where everything else looks irrelevant. It doesn't feel like we keep getting new singles. I feel like we're getting new news. Like so many of them have happened in a row, each one weaker and bigger than the next. For example, remember when 21 Savage was temporarily deported out of the US and was revealed to be actually British? Yeah, that was this year. It feels like a decade ago already. The Jonas Brothers came back. Who cares anymore? It's come to the point that something as crazy as a rapper making a murder confession song that turned out to maybe be real, and now he's convicted for double murder, which might lead him to his death penalty. It's even like the 20th biggest story of the year. Most people don't even take it that seriously because we don't even have time to process it, I guess. And I wouldn't mind if these stories were linked to interesting songs, or interestingly good songs, or interestingly bad songs even. Like most of the songs on the top 40 seem to be aiming at an average of about a 6 out of 10, which makes it passable and acceptable, even better than usual, but not compelling at all. Like, this song is fine, this song is fine, this song is fine. If both the Taylor Swift big budget collaboration comeback and the clash of two of the biggest superstars of the decade are generally considered just fine by the public, you know something wrong is happening. And even with the amount of crazy rules and changes Billboard tries to implement, so many songs live so slowly. It feels like Happier has been in the top 20 for ages, and it isn't even a memorable song. I don't even blame radio, because songs that are years old keep returning to the streaming top 50s as well, sporadically. Basically, the charts are just a collection of stoppable forces meeting immovable objects. It's like this year is just on an idle pilot that decides to make a trick every now and then.
Long story short, the Home 100 is kind of flawed and weird. So flawed and weird that they're probably getting some competition really soon. Also, DJ Khaled is apparently trying to sue them. If he even has a slight chance of winning, I'm gonna lose all faith in humanity. I wanted to establish all that because the song we're talking about today got big because of a controversy that Billboard made that was really baffling. But not for the reasons you might think. It's a country song that went to #1 from an unknown young talent that came out of nowhere, with an older, somewhat forgotten Asian star who hopped on a project out of nowhere and decided to almost make it his own. Now, where have I heard that before?
Tell me something, girl.
To start with this song, we have to analyze and comprehend what is the concept of a music genre. Because that's the juicier, more spicy, controversial part of the discourse that everyone was talking about last spring. But I just don't care. And I never have. Honestly.
Now, for this video I'm supposed to care about genre, since these songs have an identity crisis regarding where it belongs, and I don't want to bother with that, honestly. Genre labels were conceived as a way to easily classify art, not only music. Like, you want to have laughs, go watch a comedy. You want some spectacle, go watch a superhero movie. You look for what you want and you pick the best choice. But in music there's like 1,000 subgenres. There's like neo soul, dream pop, shoegaze, trap rap, art punk, alt rock, new wave. I learned just a few months ago that there's a genre called intelligent dance music. Like, wow, how condescending is that? And instead of making it easier, it just makes them more complicated. This is all before deciding what belongs in each genre and what doesn't. And again, I don't usually give a crap.
I spent years and years with people telling me that this isn't really rap or this isn't real rock and roll and such. And it's just a really entertaining discussion because rap ended up being dominant anyway, so who cares anymore. But pure rock is currently either really small, crap, or non-existent pretty much. And I'm not gonna deny its authenticity or anything because I don't care. Because I just don't care at all. I certainly do not care about country. I've joked about not caring about country at all before.
But it's true. I mostly cannot take it seriously because the bro country trend in the middle of the decade, the monotony of every song, how they are all pretty much identical, it's basically become a joke.
They figured out the words and the phrases they can use to pander to their audience, and they list the same words and phrases off sort of Mad Lib style in every song. A cold beer, a blue jeans, a red pickup, a rural noun, simple adjective,
At least with pop, rap, and rock, I can say that an artist sounds a little bit different from one another. Like Drake doesn't sound like Blueface, Ariana doesn't sound like Billie Eilish, Panic! At the Disco doesn't sound like Imagine Dragons. What's the difference between Luke Combs and Brett Young? Two completely different people with two completely different voices, and I listen to their music and it feels like the same thing. Are there any different from Lee Brice, Kane Brown, Brett Eldridge? I swear one of those is made up. Probably, but I wouldn't know. It also feels like a very unimportant genre, especially because of my background. Look, if it wasn't clear already, I've never been good at listening to music. I only started following the charts like 5 years ago and seeking out albums like 3 years ago. Before that, I was pretty much clueless about music, let alone country music, which is like 100% not relevant to me, a Mexican guy. I was surprised they even played Meant to Be on the radio last year. That barely counts. If you asked me 10 years ago what my favorite country song was, I would have said it was the Sandy I Wanna Go Home song from SpongeBob. I knew nothing. I basically known country more as, oh, that genre, for years. Like rock has bands like Teen Spirit, Bohemian Rhapsody, Sweet Child of Mine. Rap has Straight Outta Compton, Lose Yourself, California Love. Country has that John Denver song, and I guess I Walk the Line, but if I remember correctly, Johnny Cash is another figure. His music was not that easy to classify, I don't know. Anyways, the genre isn't something many people can latch on to, especially outside of the rural US. Again, people know the rap, rock, and pop legends like Biggie, John Lennon, Michael Jackson, but if you mention Garth Brooks to anyone who doesn't live in the country, there's a good chance they wouldn't be able to know him, and he's one of the best-selling artists of all time. They've also suffered from a lack of experimentation for a good while. Sure, there was that Nelly Tim McGraw song from like 15 years ago that was more like a bad R&B ballad than anything, but up until the beginning of bro country, the genre hadn't really evolved. But it's not like bro country did any favors either. In fact, it made everything way worse, giving country elements of rap and a bunch of misogyny and assholiness to make it an embarrassing, shapeless blob of cringiness. The genre is like that respected uncle that never showed up at the family meetings, but then he got old and drunk, and now he shows up and makes a fool of himself. I don't even have any bad uncles, but I love analogies. We're slowly getting out of it, but it's all kind of ruined now. Most of the songs on the charts are either bland, somewhat traditional country ballads, or bland, generic, not really country at all tunes. They feature minor trap percussion, clearly electronic elements, some of them don't even feature real instruments. Hell, some of them straight up sound like Backstreet Boys songs, and that's one of the ones people like. Which will be fine, I'm not traditionalist at all, but it's also not very good or authentic. I don't feel anything listening to them. Sometimes there's a song with a bit more edge or a natural interesting subject, but they're pretty rare and uncommon. And it turns out that my favorite artists for the genre, Chris Stapleton, Crazy Musgraves, Toriel Simpson, are either the safe country for non-country fan picks, or considered not country, or both. Now there's a term again, not country. That's what Billboard deemed Old Town Road as, which in turn was what sparked the controversy, which might have been the reason it launched to #1 for like a billion weeks.
And I always jokingly like to call it a country song, but talking about it seriously, do I really consider it one? No, I don't. It just doesn't really sound like one enough. It sounds more like hip-hop, which is fine. I like hip-hop a lot. Even the guitar sample, it comes from the most American patriotic country act of all time, 9 Inch Nails.
Because when I think of Nashville, I think of industrial Trent Reznor rock. I believe one of his movie scores sounded like this. The problem is that Old Town Road didn't deserve to be kicked out, it's that many other songs in that chart shouldn't have been leading either. When asked about the song, a lot of country artists said that Old Town Road did belong to the genre. Granted, most of them were some of the worst acts working today, and so fake they have to remind you that they are legitimately country. The only act, at least on that carpet, who said the song didn't belong in those charts were Brother Osborne, who are actually good and legit. So I guess that says a lot. Then again, I started paying attention to what the defenders were saying, that country wasn't really a sound anymore, it was a feel. Which reminds me of a couple of years ago where rappers were considered to be the new rock stars. Not because they used electric guitars or anything, but because they were larger than life, stadium filling rebels that didn't give a crap about anything. And over time I totally believed it. And Old Town Road fulfills this by partaking in the old tradition of listening a bunch of lame country cliches.
Riding on a horse, or riding in boots. Head is matted black,
The honky tonk, where the boots stomp.
got the horses in the back.
In this brand new Chevy with a lift kit.
Wrangler on my booty,
Sun, tan, skirt, and boots.
got the bushes black to match.
Drink a beer, sing a song.
Riding on a tractor,
Out here in the boondocks, with the breeze and the birds.
cowboy hat from Gucci.
I'm a dirt road in the headlights.
Wanna take my horse to the old town road.
There was a single on the charts earlier this year where Luke Bryan,
I got that real good, feel good stuff.
yeah, that guy, talks about what makes you really country.
People talking about what is and what ain't country.
Country artists are trying to backpedal so much from the bro era, I swear to God.
Of course he does this now before listening yet more of this shit.
Backing in boats, fishing rim lines, running bird dogs through the Georgia pines.
But he also starts talking about how no matter what background you came from or the way you ride tractors, drink beers and lay in the sun and such, as long as you're proud of being country, you are country.
Might not have been you, but I can't judge. Just be proud of what makes you country.
Which honestly fits Lil Nas to me. He's from Georgia, which has been a notorious breeding ground for country artists. He clearly always wears the cowboy outfit, and at first I thought that it was all a joke, just a meme. But he seems pretty serious about it. He always talks about the song in a very serious manner, and honestly, he doesn't have that bad of a voice.
Can't nobody tell me nothing.
Sure, it's not super bassy or raw and it's full of autotune, but it really works. He has a convincing delivery. I've never believed he's faked at all. Hell, he made a punchline of an artist, Billy Ray Cyrus, not only sound good, but sound legit.
Hat down, cross town, living like a rock star.
I want to offend the guy because he's been in the industry for like 30 years now and he still got number 1 in 2019. He came in after the controversy, and honestly getting Billy Ray Cyrus to validate your country song is nearly the equivalent of claiming you can say the N-word because you have a black friend. But he's actually kind of great in this and gives it a lot of credit. I don't know how. I spent all my life calling Billy Ray Cyrus Miley's dad, but at this point this song is so ubiquitous and huge, it might be time to call him that guy from Old Town Road. Even the kids know what's up.
Oh, you're Miley Cyrus's dad. No. You did that song with Lil Nas X.
Miley's attempt at making country pop certainly didn't lead to much, especially this year, which reminds me, Nashville also doesn't like when pop stars do country songs. Now, they seem okay with country artists making pop songs, but not the other way around, which is just confusing to me and is more proof as to why the genre charts are so screwed. It's not like they're not letting fake country make it in, I already talked about how they do. Some of these acts make more traditional songs than the tracks they allow. We've got country or at least country-esque songs from Lady Gaga, Beyonce, Miley, Justin Timberlake, Kesha, and many more that didn't land on the chart except for Meant to Be for some reason. What is going on? So now that we talk about what makes country country, which is very unclear still to me, let's talk about the artists in question. Montero Lamar Hill, better known as Lil Nas X, is an Atlanta rapper and I kind of admire him. The thing is that he dropped out of school to become a SoundCloud rapper like a lot of things do honestly, but he seems to be smarter than most other young artists in that subgenre. He claims to have spent many hours self-promoting his music with none of it hitting it big until he hit jackpot with a clever little song about a cowboy traveling on his horse on an old town road. Then of course it blew up on TikTok as all things do nowadays, and here we are. He's very active on Twitter where he promotes his music and makes a lot of jokes that are actually pretty funny.
I have to mention that it's so funny that I have been following him for like a year before he blew up. and I didn't even know this because I follow so many people on Twitter. God, it's just an addiction.
With him, Billie Eilish and Khalid taking a top 3 spot recently, it also seems like more relatable, less conforming teenagers are taking over. It's very weird that now Justin Bieber looks like a senior citizen in comparison. Lil Nas comes in with a novel idea of a country rap song, and wow, yes, he wasn't even the first country rap song, by the way, not even of this decade. There's plenty out there. The fusion has existed for like 20 years. The difference is that he made one that was fun, good, and felt authentic. Most country rap fusions recently have been trash that either doesn't fully commit to the whole act or commits way too much, but Old Town Road hits that balance perfectly. I also love the fact that most people consider the song a meme, but he takes it very seriously, but not too seriously. I hate when people are like, oh, we did this thing as a joke and we wanted to see how many people would fall for it. We are so genius. Like, no, you ruined the freaking joke and now no one's happy. But Lil Nas doesn't give the joke right away, and on Twitter he's like the sweetest, funniest, most positive guy. He's created an image very hard to hate, which is reflected on the lyrics of the song.
Can't nobody tell me nothing. Tell me nothing.
See, here's an unintentional invocation of Kanye, but while Kanye was telling it in the sense of, I might be an asshole, but I'm rich and famous, so you can tell me nothing. Lil Nas X seems to be saying, hey, you cannot take me down, because I'm gonna keep persevering. Which, looking at the charts right now, I mean, he kind of is. He posts so many stories of people being helped by the song and him going to school to perform the song and so on. It's absolutely wholesome. Looking at an artist like him leaves me a wonderful feeling.
Yeah, I'm gonna take my horse.
You know what? Yeah, after a year full of just the worst people alive making music, it's refreshing to see such a nice guy dominating the charts. Overall, this is pretty good, harmless stuff. More of this, please.
I'm RGS and I'll yeehaw you later. I will stick with that take.
Till I can't no more.
An EP. He seriously released an EP. I thought it was a joke. He has more songs than Northern Road? Is there gonna be more remixes or what? Man, fuck you. Okay. Let's check out this fucking 7 EP. I mean, why do we even bother? Like, it's not gonna change my opinion or anything. Okay, here we go, first track. Oh, this changes everything, god damn it.
Yeah, this isn't very good. I don't usually like to listen to EPs because I always thought it worked like this. Albums are like the big projects, what an artist is supposed to release to excite everyone. Mixtapes are lower budgeted side projects just to give fans some throwaways or deep cuts that they could attach themselves to. They aren't even released through the artist label some of the time. And EPs are very short collections of tracks that may or may not eventually be in an album properly, or maybe even what wasn't on the previous album. But now everything is backwards. Mixtapes sound like albums and vice versa. EPs are standalone projects and lead nowhere. EPs are longer than the albums too. It's another classification that has become extremely useless in the streaming era. When an artist releases something, people are going to call it an album anyways, unless it's like 2 songs long. So yeah, I consider this his major studio debut, and of course I checked it out and it pretty much changed everything I thought about the guy. I'm not going to call him a hack or anything, I don't. It's an okay project, but it's super underwhelming. Besides one song, I don't think any of these tracks came even close to capture the magic feeling that Ultra Road gave me every time I listened to it. Let's go track by track. Panini. This one is alright. Catchy hook, probably the catchiest of all of these, and merely memorable tunes. People like to point out that Nas joked that he made a song short for the stream, so I guess I'll do it too. It still feels like anyone in the world could have made it. The only quirky thing here is how the title is alluding to a Chowder character. Cartoon references in rap are getting more and more modern. Soon enough, rappers are going to have big mouth characters in their lyrics, and I'm braiding that. Family. Also very, it's more pop rocky. Reminds me a lot of those songs Salo McConnell has made recently. The sound is kind of corny and childish, and the lyrics are almost like a Barney the Dinosaur song. I mean, what is this?
You and me.
I love you, you love me.
Yeah, we gotta fix this family.
We're a happy family.
Kick It is just terrible, and he barely has a melody and the beat is awful. No one likes this one, let's move on. Rodeo is a big deep cut that everyone's been calling a banger. I don't really see it. The beat is going back to that country stuff with a rockier side, but it's not working at all. The flow isn't interesting, and Lil Nas has this Travis Scott Lil Peep vocal filter that does him no favors. This was produced by the same people who made Mo Bamba, and just like that, it's just a slog to get through without no momentum or fun. Unlike Mo Bamba, Lil Nas doesn't have that Sheck Westian energy, so he had to bring up Cardi B, goddammit.
Gunshot, thought you heard about me, must not.
At this point, Cardi B makes me sicker than insert a rare incurable disease that I can name, so I won't offend anyone here. This is one of her best verses in a while, all things considered. Doesn't make it good. You're repeating your own verses, just take a break or something. Bring You Down is more rock. It was produced by Ryan Tedder, and ignoring that it's like super repetitive, I didn't know that he could make something as hard as this. I mean, sure, it's not like Led Zeppelin or anything, but for such a poppy rock band like One Republic, this is impressive. That's all I can say about it, to be honest. The track I connected to the most and that I grew to love really quick is Closure. At first I was going to dismiss it as yet another boring pop song, but I was listening to it late night once and I started falling asleep to it, and I felt like I was going to this happy dream. I don't know, it has a really nice vibe to it. If I wanted any of this to be a hit, I'd pick this one or maybe the Ryan Tedder one. I wouldn't mind Panini, but nah. Anyway, Sultan Road woke me up and I was like, oh, that wasn't a very good EP. I skimmed through every track right now because individually they don't have any legs to stand on. They mostly have the same feel and tone, even with the so-called variety. They're all poppy and catchy but bland. They feel so overproduced but at the same time underproduced. Like, it's obvious that it had a budget this time around, but it also doesn't sound polished, specifically Lil Nas's voice. What makes Old Town Road great was that even though he doesn't really have much range, the carefree fun delivery in his performance brings the enjoyment out of it. But in the rest of the song, he doesn't sound confident at all. Like, this song could have used a few more takes. Parts of it have said how versatile he is with this project, and while I don't disagree, I feel like he didn't really deliver his full potential. Honestly, I like his SoundCloud mixtape Nasarati way more. That one's actually fun. He's already confirmed that an album is on the way, so I'm hoping that he delivers there, but what really intrigued me was his mixed reception and how these defenders confronted his detractors. Pitchfork released a negative review that got a lot of backlash, and yeah, I mean, they're Pitchfork, most of the time they don't know what they're doing. But reading it, they're not that wrong. I mean, of course, they claim that Lil Nas doesn't actually want to make music is a little bit weird. I did agree with a lot of what they said though. It didn't capture the magic of Old Town Road, it sounds too commercial and childish. But what really piqued my interest more was all the talk that no matter what he released or made, people are going to defend him because Old Town Road is such a beloved meme and phenomenon.
Personally, I think of Old Town Road more than just a meme. It's like this carefree spirit talking about doing whatever it pleases, having fun along the way. The song was great, but the EP really strikes me as a soulless cash grab, which is a pain for me to say. And I know that a lot of people are going to defend him and disagree because he's just so goddamn likable. When a dislikable artist makes a bad product, I mean, everyone is going to bash it and not feel bad about it at all. But when a likable artist whose music is so innocent and harmless and fun makes a bad product, not so much.
It reminds me a lot of the cult that's forming around Keanu Reeves lately. He's such a charismatic, down-to-earth guy that no one will point a finger at, yet like no one is going to mention the amount of shitty movies in his catalog, while instead they're going to bully a 10-year-old for not knowing better.
Stan Twitter tried to cancel him last week because he was gay, something that has been rumored for months, but I guess they only care now because Nicki Minaj is having a really shitty single out and is not doing as well as his EP. Does that even sound like a real sentence, what I just said? They're saying that he used to be a Nicki Minaj stan account and then there's a lot of evidence and that in that account he said a lot of gay stuff, which is fine. But now he claims that he never ran the account and that might be a little problematic, that he's trying to hide his gay stuff. But now he claims that he never ran that account, even with the evidence, and a lot of people are mad because he might be hiding his homosexuality, but at the same time it's none of their business, but at the same time it's a little bit iffy. I don't know, it's a really weird situation, to say the least. They also leaked his nudes from 3 years ago. He's 20. Do the math. That pretty much erases the whole credibility of the previous argument. The news pretty much took over all of the conversation. There was even some Islamophobia sprinkled there, but no one cared because the news and because Lil Nas shut that whole thing down with more funny memes, I guess. This is so fucking weird.
Okay, so the last paragraph or so was written and recorded mere days before he officially came out on June 30th, which is great for him. It's kind of a shame he came so shortly after people tried to expose him, which almost makes it look like he was pressured to do it so, but coming out is something that you should do when you're ready. It's something personal that any outsider shouldn't force. Like, fans keep giving so many celebrities gay rumors, and while fun on a small doses is not a good thing to do in the long run. It's also disappointing that, although he himself is kind of playful about it, that as soon as he came out, people started to make jokes at the expense of his sexuality, most of them not even funny, like, right till I can't no more. What does he mean? Does he mean riding a cock? The way he came out was a bit weird too, not the timing or anything, and then Prime Month that way is stellar. But he said we should listen to Closure closely. Say it fast 3 times. Closure closely, closure closely, closure closely.
Ain't no more acting, man, that forecast say I should just let me grow. No more red light for me, baby, only green, I gotta go.
And look at the lyrics, you can see where he's coming from. It's pretty understandable why nobody figured it out, it's a little bit too big. It's still a great song and the new context really elevates it, but his other songs have very little to no gay undertones, specifically Autumn Road, so I don't know where people are coming from when they say they do. I mean, we now know why he might have cheated on this baby, but that's about it. Although it is great that an LGBT artist now has one of the biggest songs of the decade, and now the biggest Billboard hip hop hit of all time. That was totally unexpected. I've seen so many posts saying how cool it is that he tricked everyone, including so many people who wouldn't have supported him to make this song so huge. And while it is really bad to call staying in the closet as tricking everyone, again, that's none of your business really. Yeah, it's pretty cool what he's accomplished. So yeah, totally support him in that aspect, but let's get back to what I had written a week before, shall we? Who's pretty much created this undefeatable persona out of an undefeatable song, which has kept the likes of Justin Bieber, Ed Sheeran, Camila Cabello, Shawn Mendes twice, Taylor Swift also twice, and Post Malone maybe twice from the top, all heavy hitter superstars. There's also Billie Eilish, which is a newer thing, and I hope that Bad Guy would dethrone it, but that seems very unlikely now. Personally, I predicted that Señorita will be the next number one at some point because the only thing Twitter prefers to our memes is getting horny. But for now, fine, he wins. Screw it. I hope this song gets the number one record now because who cares anymore? After the horrible 2018 and even some of the early 2019, where everyone used to be just the most horrible people out there, rapist after rapist, abuser after abuser, Lil Nas seemed like a breath of fresh air that got big thanks to a lighthearted jam and a nice personality. But what started as a kid making a dumb song over Red Dead footage became just a gigantic phenomenon with a high budget video that started to feel super commercial, which means we're back to square one and I'll never stop thinking about this goddamn song. It's really why this review is so late. Like, it's like every week something important happens. What's next? There's going to be a remix with Rihanna and then it's performed at the Super Bowl and then it's used as a fundraiser to save the horses and then it's genetically injected in your brain to cure cancer. I'm kind of sick of it. It's been at the top for months now. At least Despacito 2 years ago was just white noise. I wasn't reminded of it every single day. But who knows, maybe I'll stop caring about the background and controversies and the overplay and we'll certainly move on from the whole country debacle, which used to be the point of this video. And I barely even talk about the song itself. It's good, the performance kill it, the beat bangs, and it's a lot of fun. Like, I don't know why you even clicked on this video, like, everyone already knows what to think of Old Town Road. It's good. Now, I'm RGS, and please leave me alone and go stream Walker Tessa Stranger by The Baby. That song fucks.
Acting nervous round me. I'm in the road, twisted up like Walker, Texas Ranger.